So the packaging is pretty simple. It's colorful, as you see here. It says Thor, Love and Thunder, and then you get the name of the figure, Hasbro, and of course you get Build-A-Figure Korg. On the top it has the almost shattered Mjolnir, and then as you see here, there would be a character artwork on the side. For this instance, it's Thor, and on the other side, same thing. The bottom would be practically just legal mumbo jumbo, and on the back would be a bio of the figure and the figure card as a whole, and the figure as a whole, and the pieces you're going to be getting. So we have Thor himself, Mighty Thor, Gore the God Butcher, King Valkyrie, Ravager Thor, Star-Lord, and Groot. So let's focus on Thor himself. Thor is a very good figure from this line, I would say. The figure overall has a really nice sculpt and paintwork to it that I think captures his look really well in the movie. Now, as I said before, I'm not gonna say spoilers about this, so I'll be really, really quiet about it because I don't want to spoil that movie. But as you can see here, here's the head, and while, yeah, he does, the head sculpt is good, especially his long hair, the main issue is that the eyes are actually, it looks like his eyes are cross-eyed. And also looks like there's not that much blue detail with this figure, and the eye holes are not that big enough. But otherwise, it's a pretty decent sculpt for a really good look for Thor, you know, to get in sort of classic-looking Thor. His arms, they are actually reuses based off of, I think, the Infinity War or Infinity Saga Endgame Thor. As you see, they're basically chainmail with the pins. Meanwhile, the rest of his body doesn't have pins. The only new pieces I would say is that the gauntlets are new pieces. So those are new pieces and they look really, really nice. And also we have his hands, which is really good, to say the least. They're both nicely painted and sculpted, and they don't suffer any paint issues, except maybe this hand. This hand suffers a bit of paint scuffing, but it's not as bad as one of the other figures. Moving forward down to the torso, I would say the torso is really good. Like, the detail is top-notch. Again, although there is a little bit of paint chipping there, I guess. Like, right here. Otherwise, I think it looks really good. The cape is very nicely vibrant and colorful. The back of the figure looks just really nice. Like, the paint and detail is so nice, especially the blue. And it carries down to the legs. As you see here, the legs are very colorful, to say the least. They have this nice blue, metallic blue color, and it makes it look very, very nice and vibrant. And then same with the boots, it just looks really nice. Now moving forward to the accessories, and yes, this will be the same formula and format thing. Same level of accessories and whatnot. So Thor actually comes with a alternate fist hand, which is very nice, although I really wished he came with another sort of gripping hand so he could dual wield one of his of course, Mighty Stormbreaker, which I don't like this paint scheme. Plus, this one's a lot, I don't know, flimsier. But, like, it's, no, it's really flimsy. And to get it in his hand, you simply put, since it's a gripping hand, ooh, coolio, but I don't necessarily like it. Mainly because he can dual wield it, and it looks really goofy. Otherwise, I think everything else on this figure is pretty darn good. Now, let's move on to the second figure from the wave, Jane Foster. I'll say this. I think the Jane Foster Thor is probably my second favorite female figure from Marvel Legends that I own. My favorite is Scarlet Witch from WandaVision. This is my second favorite just for the likeness and overall accessory and just how articulated she is. Like, I would say the head sculpt is pretty decent for what it is. Maybe just the hair could have been more blonde, I guess, but otherwise it's really well done. Looks like Natalie Portman. The armor and the arms look muscular and while still being slim, and the detail as well on the arms, so well done. It just looks so nice. And same with the gloved hands, and it just overall looks like a very nice looking figure. Although, I think one thing to note before I move on to the body is that her arms are kind of finicky to move, because, especially this one, you have to like hold the top here and then do this. I really suggest you hair dry this. It did it. I don't know if it did that much of it. Moving it down to her whole body, again, it's really nicely painted and sculpted. Although, whenever it just... I don't know if there's any concept, if this was based off concept art because of the boots. But we're moving on to the body, not here. I think overall the detail is nicely painted and sculpted. It just looks so nice, but I don't know if there was... I think there was a little bit more, and it goes a little lazy at the back. And then, of course, her skirt piece, really nicely painted. Well, nicely painted and really nicely sculpted, and has a nice texture to it. Same with how her legs are. However, she kind of is a little bit harder to stand, but she's overall a really interesting looking figure. I would say the only complaint is that sometimes the plastic is a little off. For example, like, there's the chest piece, which is like silver, and then when you look at the boots and the kneecaps, or the knee guards, and then moving on to the shin guards, it's like this weird looking plastic silver color, which doesn't really work or mesh well. So yeah, not a perfect thing, but it's still okay, I guess. And then moving forward to this figure's accessories, you got probably a cool looking Mjolnir, but it is not well painted. It is nicely sculpted though. As you could clearly tell, it's very nicely sculpted and painted, but the main issue that comes with it is that it doesn't have that really nice quality to it. And another issue to note as well is that in the trailers, you could see the hammer within the cracks has these blue streaks within it. So why didn't the figure come with it? I don't know why. And another thing as well she comes with is an alternate battle damage. Well, not an alternate battle damage head. Voila. An armored head, and this is how I display it. It looks much better. Although I would say, again, the only complaint is the plastic is how it looks on paint. It just looks kind of goofy and does not really work well. But from a far distance, it looks really nice. And overall, I think this figure is actually kind of fun. Sure, articulation's not that great. Sure, the figure doesn't have the greatest amount of posability. But it's just an overall fun figure. I actually really, really enjoy it. Although, maybe this might be an issue. Another thing to note as well, another complaint I'll say is that I wish it came with more alternate hands. But otherwise, this is a nice, nice figure for a relatively new sculpt. Alright, moving on to the next figure. Side note, I think these two scale perfectly well. They're really nicely scaled, and they look really good together as a duo. Now, they could make more out of this wave, but I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. But now, let's focus on Patrick Bateman himself. Here is Patrick Bateman himself. I'm sorry. Gore the God Butcher. Yeah, I'm using really forced in humor, man. Feels really silly. But I think, for me, this figure is slightly accurate. It's, again, the paint is nice and the sculpt is there, but I feel like, there could have been more. Now, as you can see, look at the likeness. I think the likeness to Christian Bale is definitely there. But I feel like, I think a black wash or something would help this guy because, to have all these scars, how I got these scars? Basically, I wish, he had a black wash to highlight those scars. And also, the thing to note, especially after in the trailers, he doesn't have these really normal looking human eyes. He has like this black and yellow eyes, which I wish the figure had. So yeah, that's another issue. And then moving down to the arms, they're kind of plain and basic, but oh no, would you look at that? What happened here? It's not like I put the sword in so many times. Yeah, I did put the sword in way too many times. And this is what happened. But I think the fingernails are nicely done, But I think, again, a black wash could help this guy out. And overall, he's just really... He's kind of interesting in a way. And then moving on to the robe and the outfit itself, it's sort of nice, but especially at the back, but this thing is so useless. It is so dumb. There's no point in this robe. And then, of course, this robe piece, it just doesn't work, man. It just it doesn't work at all. And the only new pieces I would say are these cufflinks on his ankles and the feet. Oh God, I could feel the fish people coming in. But I actually really, really like how this is sculpted. That's not weird, okay? God. Okay. But I think overall, this figure is good and nicely sculpted figure, but I think what sets him back is some of the inaccuracies and the articulation. And of course, the only accessory he comes with is a sword. Just a sword. And while granted, the sword is nice, the main issue is that I wish he came with other hands to make him look a little more unique. And when I'm posing him right now, I swear he's going to break. So, there you go. There's Patrick Bateman himself. He's alright, I would say. In terms of articulation, he's not great, but I think the paint and sculpt are, what carries this figure. Alright, now let's move on to the next figure from this wave, and I guess I'm going in random order, because I don't remember anyone who was in this wave. Besides the figures themselves. Like, at least the order. As I said before with Jane, the scale with them is fine, but holy crap, posing these two together is really good. It's really good. Alright, now let's move on to the actual other figure. Tessa Thompson. Let's move on to her. Let's just go. Valkyrie here, I would say that overall this is another accurate figure, but again, this could have done better if she came with a lot more stuff. As you see, the cape see the head really nicely painted and sculpted to look like the actress. Same with the hair, although I feel like the eyes could have been better. The cape is nicely painted too. And then her arms, oof, they look really nice, muscular and all. And overall, I think the sculpt, especially with her hand, it's a lot more dynamic. So with at least her left hand, or right hand. So whenever you want to pose her in a dynamic position, you can. And I think that's the plus with the hand she comes with. Her outfit is also nicely painted and sculpted, and I overall like this outfit probably more than the one she has in Infinity War or Ragnarok. Hot take. Opinion there. That will never matter anyways. Although the black is a little much, and of course she had 2 daggers in the movie. Oh wait. Did I spoil the movie? Hopefully I did not. I think I probably did, but as you can see there, it looks like you could also dissect the figure and also sorry, moving on to the legs. Whoops. Okay. That took a while. So yeah, maybe after that sort of crisis, I would say, this is very nicely painted. And, well, mostly nicely sculpted, but I wish there was probably a little bit more paint on this. And it looks like at the back, you could probably remove this top piece, and then you could give her more articulation than she already has. And as for accessories, she only comes with her sword. Now, if you know in the trailers, you know that she has a lightning bolt, but then again, they wouldn't want to, reveal that for the figure. And that was only during the trailers. I'm being honest. I'm only going to speak through the trailers throughout most of this video. And I wouldn't say this is... I spoiled it like twice. Probably spoiled this movie like, I don't know, twice maybe. So this makes it, what, like 2 times I said that, oh, don't spoil the movie. Anyway, here's how the figure looks with the sword. And overall, this is nice. Sure, it's one accessory, but it makes her look dynamic and highly posable. And that's why I really like this figure. You could just have fun with it. Although I think for me, cloth goods would definitely work out for these 4. But overall, I think this figure is really nicely done. And pairing her up with Jane, as I said before, I really like the Jane Foster figure. I really do. I think it's a really good figure. Don't get me wrong, but I also would say Valkyrie is another close contender for, like, the second favorite female Legends. Is this, I prefer this version. I just prefer this. I prefer Mighty Thor more because it's just a lot more fun to handle. But this figure is not that bad, too. So, there we go. Alright, now moving on to another miscellaneous figure that I probably have that is a really plain figure. Let's move on to it. Okay, so I have a question for Hasbro. Why exactly make this figure? Now, don't get me wrong. I actually really like this figure. I think, for me, the likeness to Chris Hemsworth is really good with his head sculpt. Nicely painted and sculpted to look like the actor himself. And, of course, there's the pinless tech for his arms. And overall, it just looks really nice. And even more with this tank top, you can actually remove this piece if you can. I suggest you remove the head. And then you can have a jacketless look to him. But let's just, revert back to the original. Thank you. All right, now, I would say also the jacket is nicely painted and sculpted. Looks something straight out of Star-Lord's wardrobe. And you can even see the shirt itself. It's also nicely textured too, and even carries out whenever you move the articulation. And then you get The legs themselves are nicely painted and sculpted too, with a nice belt with a gold emblem on it, and it just looks really nice with the blue jeans. And then of course he has those classic yellow straps around his boots, something that the classic Thor had. Although I think the classic Thor had yellow shoes, this, or yellow boots. This is just regular shoes or just boots themselves. Really nicely detailed as well. And it's sort of like Thunderstrike, which I will bring the comparison up later on because there's some similarities with Thunderstrike, mainly with the jacket and all. But back to my question, I don't know why Hasbro made... Why would you make this? Now, as I said before, I like this figure. I really do. As its own figure, it's fun with, with the pinless tech and all, but it just makes no sense why make this figure when clearly throughout most of the trailers he doesn't have this look that often. God damn it. But he doesn't have this look to him all that much, and he's just a really basic figure, Why not just use another version of Thor? Why not use his other look that he usually wears? Not this look, but it's like the Thor with the fur on top, and then he's wearing a jacket or something. It's like it's meant for like cold weather. So why can't they make that look instead of just using this? This figure I still like though. It's just kind of unnecessary. Also, don't know why this head wasn't used for this Thor. Now, if you want to see a head swap, here they go. To mention that a Ravager Thor comes with this Stormbreaker, which boom, goes right to here. And would you look at that? That's how one head looks. Which, yeah, it looks really nicely done. I really like this look of Thor more. This will be how I will display Thor as a whole. Now let's move on to one of the weirder ones. I don't know why does it look like a WWE wrestler? I could see that. Just put the hair down and then just repaint this and then boom, you have a WWE wrestler. Alright, now moving on to the next figure. Damn, these reviews are taking me so long. Anyway, this figure kind of sucks. That was a lot of rework, but anyways. As you see here, the legs are practically reuse from the original Star-Lord. Now, again, do it up with the comparisons, and I'll show you that these are practically the same legs, just with newly painted boots. So, yeah, it's roughly the same figure, just with a new arms, a new robe, this new belt piece, and a new head. And, of course, for accessories, he comes with his classic star gun thingies. God, the Guardians are not even in the movie. This is a Thor movie, not a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Anyway, I actually think these look slightly better, in a way. But also look really kitty-like, like very toy-like, so... yeah, this figure is just kind of meh. And finally, another figure that, before I move on to the bath, that I also don't like. I'm sorry, I didn't see that there. I really don't like this Groot. Again, it's reuse, but there's something about it I just don't like. Something about it I just don't like about it. I just don't like... it just looks so lazy. Like, the only thing I think new is the head. But that's not saying much because I don't own the original... Groot figure, Teen Groot figure. And, I mean, what is there to say? It's already been said from a lot of reviews. This is practically the same figure. Now, what are the new things he comes with? Well, you could change his hands, and I'll show you now. Let's actually do a little quick montage. Look at this man, can't even do a single T-pose. And he falls over too. And of course, how can I mention a gun? I swear this hand is about to break. Oh my god, this will take so long. Wait. Look that he probably never uses. But it's a pretty nice looking display. I'm not gonna lie. This actually looks kind of cool. This is how I display them. But then again, I don't know what to say. It's just reuse. So whoop-de-doo. Alright, now let's move on to the bath. Kitties, let's move on to this guy. Oh boy. Now, if you don't know, if you haven't collected Marvel Legends before, but I don't think anyone hasn't. I mean, these are kind of mainstream at this point. You would know that every Legends figure would always come with a bath piece. So, this is what you build. Korg himself with an accessory of this. Oh my lord, this figure has issues. I think I still like it though, because I don't have the original Korg. The head sculpt is nicely painted, and it's well, not nicely painted, it is nicely sculpted. Paint is non-existent with the rock texture. It is non-existent. You could see it, but I want to highlight it more because it looks kind of plain. Especially the fact that his lip looks really plain. And of course he's wearing this new armor, which pretty much looks pretty standard. Really nice though. Really nicely textured. And has a nice sculpt and paintwork to it to highlight it. And of course there's his gauntlets and his arms, which look really nicely done. No issues whatsoever with them, but I think for me the main issue is trying to hold them. Now there's actually a main complaint I heard about the figure where his arms would want to pop off. Now that is not the case with mine. The only issue is when we move on to the bottom of the waist. Now, I think this, again, it's nicely sculpted and whatnot, although more paint and detail could be worked at his bum. But, oh my god. Are you... Zilla, okay, not more of those jokes. You can't really straighten his legs, because this is what will happen. His legs will always be like this. They'll always be... Here's how it works. So, let's say you want to put his legs in. They'll always do this. Like, it'll spread out. And it makes them look a little bit smaller. So, I don't know what's up with the legs. But I think also, whenever I move the legs up, this always pops off. But, again, the nicest painted and sculpted detail is there. Especially with the fur texture. Overall, it's a pretty decent bath. And I can't really say that much more about it because I don't own the original figure. It's overall just a pretty decent, fun figure in a way. Now let's move on to some of the articulation, which I'll quickly gloss over. Every Marvel Legend there's more articulation. Now it's mostly the same for every figure, just some of them are different. Now of course, this Thor, for example, and of course everyone knows similar. Hinge jointed head. On a disc hinge and move down and up. Ball joint there. Swivels on the wrist, on the arms, but not on this one because of shoulder pads. In and out. Movement, bicep swivel, double bend, hinge jointed hands, and a swivel here, but maybe sometimes there will be waist swivels for other figures. Ball jointed legs that could swivel, double bend, and also foot pivot, and so on and so forth. Now, here are some of the differences within some of them. Groot, for example, how Groot only has single jointed elbows and knees for himself. Valkyrie and King Valkyrie and Mighty Thor have an up and down movement for their hands. Most of the figures, Jane Foster, Valkyrie, Ravager Thor, and Gore the God Butcher have a ball joint, a dumbbell joint at the neck, basically 2 ball joints into one. Gore has leg articulation, however, the main problem with him is that it's hindered by the robe, so that's an issue. And yeah, it's just that it's a pretty standard way for most of these figures. Pretty standard for the rest. It's only, again, also another thing to note, Star-Lord has no diaphragm joint, but can only crouch, but only has an ab crunch, like so, like this figure. The rest have a diaphragm joint. So pretty much that is it. If there's any other differences, please tell me below. Alright, now let's move on to the size comparisons. Size comparison time. Now, let's hopefully I don't screw this up. Inches. Valkyrie stands at, oh my god. Versions of Thor stand at almost 6.25, maybe, for each of them. This one almost stands at almost 7.3 inches. Groot, Jane, and Valkyrie Groot stands at almost 6 inches. Valkyrie stands at 6.5, and Jane Foster stands at 6 inches. Moving on to the rest. Here's the rest of the others. Star-Lord stands at almost 6 inches, maybe stands at 6.5 almost. Gore stands at almost 6.5, and Korg stands at almost maybe 7 to almost 8 inches. Same size as a NECA figure. Excusez-moi. As a NECA figure. Quick comparison of Star-Lord himself. Here is Star-Lord compared to the original figure. As I said before, they're roughly the same. Look at the legs. They are roughly the same. The torso is roughly the same. The boots, while they're painted differently, they are really pretty much the same sculpt. So overall, it's just reuse galore. And then with Thor and Thunderstrike, because there are some similarities with them, like how the fact that Thunderstrike wears boots, Thor, and also wears, but mostly because Thor sort of has a ponytail, meanwhile Thunderstrike has a ponytail, meanwhile they're also wearing jackets. So yeah, those are some of the comparisons. What do you think of this wave? Honestly, this wave isn't bad, but I would say it's very strange and kind of weird. I would say to start off with Groot. Groot isn't bad by any means, but I honestly do not care about one thing about him. Star-Lord, he's a nice... I like the head sculpt more, and if you know what, let's try a little head swap. Looks really strange, and actually the head looks... articulation's way better here. And yeah, and if you want to see the other look, wait till the photo gallery. But honestly, this figure is just reuse. Nothing special, but probably just get the Epcot one, which is going to be a lot more money if you think about it. King Valkyrie is a good figure, but I really wish there was more hands. Same with Gore. Same complaint applies to Gore, Thor, Gore the God Butcher, Thor, Jane Foster, and Ravager Thor. Gore could have used a black wash, but overall he's just kind of decent in a way. Korg, he's just alright. Not the greatest quality control, especially with what I'm hearing that his arms kind of pop off. The Thor is not great. I'm not just kidding. Sorry. The Thor figure is actually probably the best one out of this whole wave. He's a lot of fun despite it being reused, despite it not having that many accessories. And overall, the paint and sculpt kind of carry this figure. Jane is not bad, I would say. She's just as good as Thor in a way, considering that she's an all-new sculpt. I just wish her hammer paint was way better, and I wish it was consistent with its gray, its silver coloring between the plastic and her chest armor, and then her shin guards and then her knee armor. And then Ravager Thor, while being basic, is still kind of fun. So yeah, it's sort of a strange wave that suffers from not that many accessories, at least from Altahan's perspective. But overall, it's just a fun, nice little wave in a way, in some aspects. Now, do I recommend it? Some figures, yes. Others, is up to you. Honestly, recommend King Valkyrie, the Thor, Jane Foster, and Gore the God Butcher himself. The rest, it's up to you. In my opinion, I would also say Ravager Thor, but Ravager Thor is kind of basic and bland. Korg, you could just get the older figure. Star-Lord and Groot, you could just probably skip out on them. And I think the Korg bath isn't going for a lot. So, yeah, overall, if you want to get this wave, just get the ones you really, really like and then skip the rest. Or if you're like me, just get the whole wave if you want to. So, if I had to rate this whole wave as a whole out of 10, I would give it maybe a solid 7. 7 for the whole wave. It's overall just a pretty weird, strange wave. And I'm just more lacking motivation to say more things. Anyway, yeah, it's just overall a pretty strange but at times kind of a fun wave. I think, as I said before, these 4, as you see, are actually the ones you want to get, and then the rest you could just probably skip out on. And if you want to get that Thor head sculpt, you probably have to get this. But who knows? So, anyways, I am Mr. Spring AJ, and please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. I was gonna upload a review of this Thor, but I need to do a lot more progress to do a lot more upgrading, to say. So, otherwise, thank you for watching, like, subscribe, as I said always so many times, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.